everyone, 30 days ago, well I guess technically 32 days ago now, I decided to quit sugar. And I didn't do this as just some fun experiment, which is what I usually like to do. I did it because I felt like it was incredibly necessary for where I was and what was happening. So this is the story of why I decided to quit and what I went through in the process of quitting. And let me tell you, it was a roller coaster. Leave a comment down below if you have ever done a sugar detox or like quit sugar for a period of time, or generally what your relationship with sugar is. And if you're excited to dig into this video, give it a big thumbs up. Without further ado, the reason I quit sugar. I'll try to keep this short and sweet. So in January, I moved out of my old house. I ended up moving in with some family while I was looking for a new place, and I lost access to being able to use the kitchen regularly. So as such, I started eating out more, and as a byproduct of eating out more, I started consuming more sugar. It started with me just getting like a cookie for dessert every time I would go to Urban Plates to get dinner, and escalated to the point where every time I would go grocery shopping, I would come home and eat an entire box of cookies, because every time I went grocery shopping, I would get a box of cookies and then I would eat them all the night that I got them. Like the entire box. That was 84 grams of sugar in one sitting, when the daily recommended intake for added sugars is 20 grams. So I was having 4 days worth of added sugar in about an hour. So when I realized that this was starting to happen more and more frequently, I decided to implement some of my sugar craving busting hacks, and it actually went fairly well. Like, I was able to start cutting back on sugar, and I reined in my sugar addiction a little bit. But then I found a new place to move into, and I moved. 5 days later, we went into quarantine, and just because of everything that was happening, I just fell out of my good habits that were helping me kick back my sugar cravings, and ended up diving back into the sugar. And this was not helped by the fact that I ended up moving 10 minutes away from my favorite gluten-free bakery that makes the best gluten-free donuts on the planet. I had been living like an hour and a half away before that, so I was just so excited to be so close that I started going more and more frequently, and it was not great. I've always loved sugar and chocolate and donuts and eaten them regularly throughout my life, but this was the most addicted to sugar that I think I've ever been. I was constantly thinking about it, I always wanted it, and it felt like it was starting to control me. I don't ever want to be dependent on a substance, whether it be caffeine, which is why I limit myself to 1 to 2 cups of coffee per week max, or sugar. And I was starting to become fully dependent on sugar. If I didn't give my body the quick hit of glucose that it was constantly craving, I wouldn't be able to stop thinking about it until I did. And that is not how I want to live my life. That is not the place that I want to be in. But my main motivator in going through this was my knowledge of the negative health effects of sugar, and knowing that if I let this trend continue and spiral out of control, I would end up majorly compromising my health. Excess sugar consumption has been linked to so many different chronic illnesses and diseases. Excess sugar causes inflammation, which can increase your risk for cancer, heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's disease, and other neurodegenerative diseases. Excess sugar can increase the risk of hormone imbalance, developing type 2 diabetes, developing depression. It can increase the aging of the skin, and goodness knows I don't need anything else wrong with my skin. It can also increase the speed of cellular aging in general. It's also really not good for the healing process, and even though my skin is mostly back to normal, I am still healing from topical steroid withdrawal, and I don't want to be slowing down or reversing that healing process. For the last few years, before the couple months leading up to my escalating sugar addiction, I was super happy, satisfied, satiated, didn't feel restricted at all, just eating a couple bites of dessert every night, like a couple bites of chocolate, a small bowl of ice cream, or even just some berries. That was enough to make me very, very happy, and to satisfy my cravings and not make me want to keep eating more and more and more sugar. So my goal with these 30 days was to get back to that relationship with food and with sugar, where I can have a little bit but not feel dependent on it, and not feel like I was constantly needing it. So I proceeded to give up sugar for 30 days, and this is how it went. Today is day 1 of no sugar for 30 days. Gotta say, I already had a craving for sugar, and I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. Planning on going grocery shopping today. I was like, oh, I should put some chocolate on my list. Nope, not happening. But this highlights precisely why I need to do this. Last night, went out with a little bit of a bang. I got a gluten-free donut and eclair from my favorite bakery. The final hurrah, eating the sugar before I can't eat the sugar, which is honestly not the best mindset to have, but like, whatever. You know what was a really bad idea? Trying to do this while in a calorie deficit. Like, being in a calorie deficit already makes you crave all of the things. And so that's just amplifying the sugar cravings. Like, if I ever do this again, remind me not to do it while actively trying to lose fat, because it's difficult. So it's day 3 of no sugar, and I realized I might have messed up. I'm trying to decide if I messed up, basically, because I have been having kombucha every day, because I love kombucha, but to make kombucha you have to stick sugar in the thing with the tea and the SCOBY, so it has sugar in it. I don't want to like ruin this experiment by having a little bit of sugar in my beverage, but I'm doing this like for me, for a specific reason, and I get to make the rules because this is my challenge to myself. So what I'm thinking I'm gonna do, since kombucha, like, I love drinking it because it makes my gut feel good. Like, when I have kombucha regularly on an empty stomach in the morning, my digestion feels better, my body feels like cleaner inside, which doesn't make sense. I drink kombucha because of how it makes my body feel, not because I'm craving sugar. So I think what I'm gonna do is continue to drink my kombucha, but if I start getting like bad sugar cravings and I start turning to kombucha to fulfill those sugar cravings, that's not gonna be okay. But if I'm sticking with just drinking it for how it makes me feel rather than because I'm craving sugar, that's okay. So it was at this point that I drew some more clearly defined rules for myself, because I knew that I wasn't probably gonna be eating like literally 0 grams of sugar per day, but I needed to have some clear-cut lines, or else I was just gonna let myself dance in the gray area and then not accomplish anything. So the rule I ended up setting for these 30 days was to eliminate all sweeteners that were sweet for the sake of adding sweetness. This is not eliminating all added sugars and sweeteners, whether they were something that was already in a packaged product or something that I would add in myself. This not only included regular sugar, but also honey, agave, maple syrup. I also got rid of monk fruit and stevia. This also meant eliminating things like dates and bananas and smoothies and whatnot, because you basically just add those to add sweetness. And then I also set a rule for myself to eliminate all after dinner dessert, no matter the sugar content, because I knew that that was just a habit that I needed to break, just the craving of something sweet after dinner. So I just got rid of that. But I chose to continue to include foods that have natural sugars in them that I don't consume for the sake of their sugar or the sweetness value. So things like sweet potatoes, squashes. Who eats squash to be able to eat sugar? Like, no one. I also kept in berries, but I did this with the caveat that if I did start falling back on those foods like as a dessert or to fill the gap that was missing from not eating sugar, that I would cut those out too. And then this was all with the other caveat that if my sugar cravings didn't go away in like 2-ish weeks, that I would cut out like all of the grams of sugar, including sugar from like sweet potato and kombucha and yogurt and those things. If I knew it had been purely a physiological addiction, I probably would have cut out every single gram of sugar, because that's kind of what you need to do when you have a physical addiction to something. But I knew that a lot of it was mental, and so a lot of it was just breaking that habit of craving and giving into the cravings. Oh my god, I want all of the sugar, all of the chocolate. This is why did I think this was a good idea? I hate this. I hate this. My body is just like, feed me the sugar. I'm dying. I must be dying. This is very difficult. I don't know if I'm gonna make it through this. Today is the first day that I'm feeling a little bit better and a little bit less like I'm losing my mind. The last few days have just been mentally so difficult. Like, just non-stop thinking about sugar. Can't stop thinking about sugar. It's all I want. But today's a little bit better. But thankfully, physically, I've kind of not, I haven't had those crazy detox symptoms that a lot of people get, like really bad headaches and all of that stuff. Physically, I've felt pretty much fine, I think. It's just definitely a huge mental hurdle and addiction to overcome. So I went to the grocery store hungry today, which usually is a terrible decision for me. That is when I get all of these sugary things that keep me addicted to the sugary things, and then I get more addicted to sugary things, then I go to the grocery store and see all the sugary things and get more sugary things. Like, it's a bad cycle of sugary things when you start going to the grocery store hungry, or at least it is for me. But today, I went there, I checked off everything on my list, started walking down the ice cream aisle, and I was like, wait, I can't eat any of this. There's no point in looking around the rest of the store for delicious good things, because I'm not eating sugar right now. And so I went and checked out. And that was like the shortest grocery shopping trip of my life. I did not realize how much time I have been spending just like perusing the aisles, looking for something delicious, and then hemming and hawing about whether or not I should buy it, and standing there and just contemplating it. And when I'm saying no to sugar, the decision is just made for me. And it makes it so much easier. So I almost messed up today, not because of a lack of willpower or anything, but because I genuinely completely forgot that I was doing this. I had this whole breakfast plan in my head based around the fact that I was going to the farmer's market, and the farmer's market has this vendor that sells gluten-free bagels, and I can just buy one bagel rather than having to buy like a package of bagels. And I was like, perfect, because I only want to make this once. So I'm gonna go there, get the stuff I need, get the bagel, go home, make the breakfast. Wow. The vendor that sells the bagels wasn't at the farmer's market, so I had to think on my feet, and I found a gluten-free bakery nearby to get a bagel. I showed up. It's a gluten-free bakery. They don't only do bagels. They have a lot of pastries and delicious sugary things. And without thinking about, oh, I'm not eating sugar right now, I was like, ooh, I want one of those. And I was just totally not thinking like, I'm not eating sugar right now, I shouldn't get that. Instead, you should be proud of me for this, because apparently I've already come this far. I seriously contemplated getting a whoopie pie, and I also very seriously contemplated getting a cupcake, but I told myself, no, they're still gonna be there. You don't need to get them just because you're here. You're here for a bagel, just get the bagel and go home, and you can come back some other time and get them. And that's what I did. I just went home. I didn't get the sugar. I didn't need the sugar. Progress is progress. It's a good thing. Yay. All right, it's day 14. We're halfway there, and I was doing so well. I had very limited sugar cravings, and the sugar cravings that I did have were very easy to like brush off and not give into. And it wasn't really like a craving. It was more like, oh, I want chocolate. Oh, I'm not eating sugar, so we're not gonna have chocolate. And that was that, and it was fine. Then yesterday, I filmed my video about low-calorie desserts and my approach to desserts. Now, when I had planned out the videos that I was filming, I didn't think about the fact that the dessert video would have to be filmed in the middle of when I wasn't eating sugar. And so I had to make a decision. Do the video, completely change the video. I didn't have time to completely change the video, so I did the video. And for the sake of the video, I had one homemade chickpea cookie plus a little bit of the batter as I was making the cookie. So I have now had some sugar. It was a little bit of honey. That was, I think, the only sweetener in the cookie. Yeah, just a little bit of honey, and then there were some chocolate chips in the cookie, but not very many. So like all in all, like it's not like I had a ton of sugar, like I just like went off the rails, like binged on a bunch of sugar. That's not the problem. Like honestly, I don't really care. I would still count this as 30 days of no sugar with the exception of a bite of sugar for a video. Like it's not a big deal. But that cookie reawakened the sugar dragon inside of me, and now I just want all of the sugar again. Like I almost feel like all of my progress has been lost, because before that, like I said, I was doing so well. My cravings were basically gone, and they were very manageable. Just one bite of sugar, and now I'm back to square one. It just goes to show how addictive sugar really is. How like I was doing okay, and then one bite of it, or like one small cookie or whatever, just completely undid everything, and now my body is just wholly craving it again. Like I was fighting all day to not dive into my little chocolate basket and eat a bar of chocolate. So I don't know yet if this means that I'm gonna start the 30 days over, because it's not like I've given in to these cravings. I still only had one small cookie. So I think I am still stronger with my willpower and everything. I'm not back at square one. My cravings are back at square one, but my response to the cravings is not back at square one. Like, I don't need to never want sugar again. Like, I'd like to still be able to enjoy a donut or a bar of chocolate. I just want to be able to do that on my own terms and not have it be driven by a craving. So for now, I think I'm still sticking with like the original schedule of the 30 days. If I give in to these sugar cravings and end up binging on a bunch of sugar, it will be starting over. But for now, technically still on track, just a little bit struggling. I'll keep you updated. It's like day 16, I think, and I am 100% like back on track, on board with eating less sugar, like not feeling the intense cravings anymore. Basically, I had that one little slip up day where I ate a little bit of sugar, got a lot of my cravings back, but by the day after that, they were all gone again. So I think my body it has progressed and has adapted to not be craving as much sugar even when I eat sugar. So this is a good sign. And I think I'm at the point where, like, honestly, I'm feeling physically and mentally better. Like, before I did this, while I was still consuming an excessive amount of sugar, I felt dependent on sugar, and I was kind of constantly thinking about it. Like, I always was like wanting a donut or wanting like a bite of chocolate or wanting more sugar. And in the last like 2 days since I have recovered from my brief stint of eating a bite of sugar, and a few days before that, I was free of that thought process. Like, I hadn't really realized how much of a difference it's made. Oh, hi, Ernie. I hadn't really realized how much sugar was, I don't want to say taking over my life, but it was definitely consuming my brain a lot more than I realized. And now that I have been off of it for 2.5 weeks, I feel more independent from sugar, if that makes sense. And I feel like I also have better focus. I feel like my mind is just functioning a little bit higher capacity, and I'm not, stop, no, don't, no. This guy's trying to bite my screen. Stop it. Stop it. Caught in the act. I'm just so grateful at this point that I decided to do this. Like, I was thinking maybe it's not worth it. Like, maybe I'm being too restrictive and being too like focused on health or whatever. But the change in the clarity of my thoughts and the lack of distraction because I'm constantly thinking about sugar is like so worth it. Also, I feel like my skin has improved. Like, it could just be a complete coincidence, but my face is not splotchy at all. My neck is like very minimally splotchy. Like, I feel like I'm back on track to healing really well from topical steroid withdrawal. Again, that could be a complete coincidence, but it is a change that I'm noticing. About halfway through this process, I discovered the amazingly delicious added sweetener-free chocolate frosty recipe that I've shown you guys a few times, and this helped me pull through the hard part. I have been loving this. I've literally made this last like 3 days in a row. It's my favorite. It makes it a lot easier to forego sugar when you're still indulging, or at least you feel like you're indulging. Like, to me, this feels indulgent. Like, it's thick, it's chocolatey. While the physical cravings were pretty much diminishing, I still kind of had like that mental habit of thinking, oh hey, I want some sugar. And so having something chocolatey and decadent first thing in the morning really kind of helped shut that down, because I already had it, so I didn't feel the need to keep thinking, oh, I want something chocolatey. Okay. Full disclosure, maybe TMI, but I just got my period, so my cravings are like a little bit higher. I could so go for some chocolate right now, let's just say that. But that being said, I do feel like I'm a lot more in control of my cravings now. Like, I know that when I do crave chocolate on my period, that if I have salmon or avocado, usually that also satisfies that craving. Before I started this, I would have just gone and eaten probably an entire bar of chocolate. But right now, I am in the mental space and have the capacity to say, hang on, I know that my body doesn't need chocolate to satisfy the craving. So I'm gonna go maybe have half of an avocado with my lunch and see how I'm feeling after that. Chocolate though. Chocolate sounds really good. At this point, it started to feel kind of effortless. Like I was just cruising along, just chilling. Thoughts of sugar were not coming into my head nearly as much. I had 10 days left. Then I went grocery shopping, hungry again. So I just went to the grocery store hungry again, and it did not go quite as well as it did last time. I didn't end up buying a ton of sugar, but I definitely wanted to, and I made up for it by buying so much other stuff that I just did not need. Like I came home with like just a bunch of random snacks that were not on my list that I only bought because I wanted to get stuff that I couldn't get. And so I just bought everything to make up for it. I think I was just way too hungry when I went to the grocery store. Like it was just, in general, not a good idea. You guys, I am free. I feel so liberated. And I know this sounds like a huge exaggeration, but like, I genuinely feel like my life and my mindset is so much different. And I feel so much more free because I'm not being constantly controlled by sugar cravings. I'm not constantly thinking about sugar, and I can just go back to living my normal freaking life and making my normal food decisions based on what I value in food rather than my addiction to sugar. Like I feel so different and I feel so good. And now here I am 30 days later, and I am so glad I did this. As I said before, one of the biggest benefits that I've experienced is my mental clarity and ability to focus and not being constantly bogged down by thoughts of when I was gonna get my next sugar fix. There's just so much more space in my brain for productivity and thoughts when I'm not constantly thinking about sugar. This has given me back my personal sense of food freedom. I no longer feel controlled by sugar, and I feel like I can make my own decisions about food based on what I personally actually value in food. And I totally understand that for some people, especially those recovering from a disordered relationship with food, that food freedom for them might mean embracing the sugar and eating all of the donuts and the boxes of cookies, and that is okay. And I want to make sure that that's clear, that like, that is okay if that's where you are and that's what you need to do to have that sense of food freedom. If cutting out sugar makes you feel super restricted and makes you want to binge, and it results in binging or severe feelings of restriction or developing a negative relationship with food, then cutting sugar is probably not the best idea for you. But for me, after I got through the first few days of like withdrawal and constant sugar cravings, I was excited because I knew how my body felt when I had that relationship with food and with sugar that made me feel good, and I was just so excited to be going on a journey to get back to that place. This whole process has been mentally, emotionally, and physically freeing for me. And lastly, I will touch on the juicy part, the part that a lot of you are probably waiting for, the weight loss. I want to clarify, I did not do this for weight loss. I am on a separate weight loss journey, but I did not cut sugar in order to lose weight. I cut it because of the reasons I talked about before, because I felt controlled by it and I knew that it was spiraling out of control and would lead to health issues down the line. But I know it is one thing to just hear about the different mental benefits that I experienced versus actually seeing like a physical representation of the difference that it made. So I did not weigh myself going through this process. As I said, I am on a little bit of a fat loss journey, and when I started going through that, I realized that my relationship with the scale was not in a place where weighing myself regularly was a good idea, so I just threw the scale out and have not weighed myself. I didn't actually throw it away, I just haven't used it. Speaking of which, I am gonna be doing an update video all about my fat loss journey and like what I am really struggling with and if I've actually made any progress, so you can stay tuned for that. But basically, I have no idea if I actually lost any weight during these last 30 days. I also did not intentionally take progress pictures, but since I do regularly take pictures for Instagram and YouTube thumbnails, I have pictures. And as you can see, I went from being a little bit curvier to a little bit leaner over the course of these 30 days. Now, I like my body as both, so honestly, I'm not like super stoked or super disappointed by the difference in my body. I think there is a clear difference, and I clearly look leaner now, but like, I don't personally see it as like a particularly positive difference. The positive difference I see is in my mental state and just how I feel. So that's that, and moving forward, what I'm gonna try to do is just slowly add back in the amount of sugar that like I want to have in my life. So like, just a little bit of chocolate to end the day, or like a few bites of ice cream or something like that at the end of the day. I think I probably still need to wait a while and really let my body kind of settle into this new relationship with sugar and new physical response to sugar before I go back into like a box of donuts or a box of cookies or a bag of chocolate covered honeycomb. I do really like chocolate covered honeycomb. But basically I want to slowly transition back into the lifestyle that I felt the best living, with just a little bit of dessert to end the day rather than celebrating this with like an entire box of donuts. That would just make the whole thing counterproductive. I will keep you guys updated on how this goes moving forward, whether or not reintroducing a little bit of sugar like just kicks me straight back into my sugar addiction or not. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for that. Hit the little notification bell so you get notified when I post a video about this. Leave a comment down below about your relationship with sugar, if you have had success doing a sugar detox or like taking a few steps back from sugar for 30+ days. If you want to see more videos from me all about health and fitness, you can check them out over here. Please share this video with your friends, your family, your neighbors. Stick it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. And I will see you very soon. Bye.